Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste and good morning, everybody. It's a really beautiful winter Sunday. Yes, the subject which we have taken up this morning is interesting, profound, very deep, very non-dual. Surprise, surprise. Yes, the universe as seeing. It's a theme which comes again and again in Advaita Vedanta. We'll talk about it today. Today I'm going to draw centrally from this book, The Nectar of Supreme Knowledge. I've been giving a few talks on this on and off in the last few months. This is actually an English translation of Yoga Vasistha Sara, which translates as the essence of Yoga Vasistha, and that is actually a condensation or an extract, let's say, from the original Yoga Vasistha. The Yoga Vasistha Ramayana is a huge book, more than 30,000 verses. So the context there, I've mentioned it earlier also, but just to recapitulate, the prince Rama, young Rama, he suddenly becomes very non-dualistic and he decides, I won't be a king, I don't want this kingdom, I want to go away and, become enlightened and go away to the forests or mountains and become enlightened. I want to give up the world. So his father, the king, is of course naturally worried. If you don't have the prince, the crown prince, he goes away, and then who's going to run the kingdom, all sorts. And the irony of the Ramayana is that later on the father himself will send the prince away on 14 years of exile into the forest. But anyway, I think Rama could have said, I told you so, I wanted to go to the forest anyway. But dad being a dad would probably say, you go when I tell you to go, not when you want to go. So he asks the sage Vasistha to counsel the prince. And Vasistha says to Rama, it's wonderful that you want to become enlightened, you want to give it all up and live like a monk and become enlightened. That's wonderful, you want to give up the world and find God or find Brahman. But tell me this, is the world other than Brahman? This Brahman which you are seeking, is it somewhere else? Is this not also Brahman? So that's the theme, and it's a huge, long teaching with a lot of philosophy, a lot of stories. It's a fascinating book. For our benefit, an unknown author, centuries ago, that much we know, it's not old, it's not new. Yoga Vasistha Sara is at least a few centuries old. Some unknown author extracted about 200 odd verses, which are the essential non-dual teachings from the whole book. And then one of our monks, Swami Sarvapriyananda, who was in our ashram, the hospital in Kankhal, which is near Haridwar, it is in Haridwar now basically. He made a Bengali translation of the Yoga Vasistha Sara with extensive, that's the value of that Bengali translation, it has extensive notes on Advaita Vedanta. So one of the monks who inspired me, a very non-dualistic monk, Kalipada Maharaj, Swami Sarvapriyananda, he would give that book, the Bengali version of this book, as a present to everybody who showed interest in non-dualism. So that book, it gives you an insight into many abstruse, many deep concepts in Advaita Vedanta, teachings in non-dual Vedanta, that the notes of Dhireshanandaji. So now we have this book translated by Sarvadevanandaji. This is Nectar of Supreme Knowledge, English translation of the original Yoga Vasistha Sara, and translation of all those notes, those valuable notes. Now, why am I giving you this detailed background? The reason is, today what we are going to do is almost entirely based on one such note in the Bengali original, translated here. One note by Swami Dhireshanandaji on one of the verses in this book. I will also draw upon none other than the Holy Mother, Ma Sharada Devi, one of her conversations with one of her monastic disciples. We will draw upon, of course, Shankara. We will draw upon contemporary philosophers, especially a philosopher called Malkani, who is forgotten, basically. But he was a great philosopher, at least in the non-dual Advaita, modern Advaitin, G.R. Malkani, Ghansham Das Ratanmal Malkani. I'll draw heavily upon him today. Also a contemporary philosopher who's right here in Stony Brook. Right now we are very lucky to have Sthaneshwar Timalsina, who is an authority on Advaita Vedanta and especially Kashmiri Shaivism. And we are going to actually have him speak here in a couple of months' time. So on one of his books, I'll draw from that also. Anyway, so it's a rich morning we have before us. And I hope to wrap it all up to show how it can directly help us in our non-dual insight, non-dual realization. All right. Now let's go to the verse which we are going to base our discussions on. This is in this book. And the verse, I'm going to read it out. This is the last verse of the second chapter. Evam nasannasad iti bhranti matram vijrimbhate anubhuyata evashu kinchit sarvanubhutitaha. So when you realize Brahman, when you realize the ultimate reality, which is existence, consciousness, bliss, what happens is this world which we are seeing, evam nasat, evam, in this way, once you have realized. Already 2 chapters are over. They are expecting that you are already enlightened. So, in this way, as you have realized, then you see this world. It's all that exists in this world and all that does not exist. Sat, asat. Or a deeper understanding of that would be the cause and the effect. This entire world, everything here is either a cause and effect, or both, a cause of something else and an effect of something before it. The entire world is linked by causality. And he says, there is really no causality at all. You will see this. Nasat na asad iti. Then what are we seeing? We thought all these things which exist are causes and effects, But then what is it that we are seeing? Bhranti matram vijrimbhate. It's an error, it's an illusion, it's like a dream which appears, which arises. Where? In consciousness itself. And there is only this one consciousness, one awareness in which this dream-like display of the world arises. Anubhuyate vashu. In every experience, you realize just like that. Everywhere, whatever you see in this world, whatever you experience right here, what he means is right here in your kingdom, that Brahman is here. So that's what we are experiencing. This world is an appearance of what? Of Brahman, of the ultimate reality, and that reality is right here and right now. In fact, in one of the verses quoted by Dhireshanandaji later on in his notes, just another reference, we don't know what the source is, maybe Yoga Vasistha, but we don't see the source. Yadrigeva param brahma tadrigeva jagatrayam. It says, what is the ultimate reality? That which is the ultimate reality. That itself is this world, the 3 worlds, your heaven, earth and hell, or the waking, dreaming, deep sleep. It's exactly this thing. You are looking for Brahman here. It's like you're looking for gold and you throw away the golden ornaments and go elsewhere to look for gold. Here you have a golden necklace, you have a golden ring, you have a golden bracelet, and you say, yeah, but I'm not interested in ornaments. I'm off to search for gold. That's the mistake you're making here. So this is the thrust. But our concern here is the status of the world. What is this world? Is it real as we see it? Or is it like a dream? Or is it non-existence? So our theme this morning, will be three approaches to non-duality, three approaches to Advaita Vedanta, all very wonderful, each more incredible than the earlier one, each a little more crazy. Ultimately, we'll end up with something crazy, but it's going to be interesting. The three approaches, and remember, the question here is the status of the world. Yes, it's Brahman. Brahman is existence, consciousness, bliss. But what is this? But what we are experiencing now. This is a question which will come to any non-dualist after some time when you investigate. It's all very good. I'm not the body, not the mind. I am pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is the reality of the world. The world is appearing in pure consciousness. But all this time, the world I was immersed in, what I was experiencing all this time, what is it? How real is it? How seriously should I take it? And what is it in relation to the ultimate reality which we are trying to discover? This is the question. Three answers, three approaches, let us say. They are called, the Sanskrit names, and I will translate. One is called Shrishti Drishti Vada. It translates as creation first, seeing later. Creation, then seeing. The universe, I'll explain. Then the second one is called Drishti Shrishti Vada. Seeing is creation. I'm using the word creation. Srishti actually means projection of the universe. Anyway, seeing is creation or projection. And then Ajatavada, the theory of non-origination. There is no creation. There is no world. The question is dissolved. There's no question to answer anyway. So three approaches. Before we dive into it, remember, it's not that one of them is true and the others are false. I saw this conversation with Ramana Maharshi. And somebody asked him, so what do you teach? Do you teach Ajat? He's often associated with that highest teaching of Advaita Vedanta, the sort of final approach to it, Ajata. Do you teach that? He said, I support all three. The creation and then experience, the experience and creation, and the non-origination. I support all three. And then the question was, but one of them must be true. All of them can't be true at the same time, because one says the world is real, the other says the world is like a dream. How can both be true at the same time? And the answer, I'm paraphrasing what he said, is very perceptive, very deep. The answer is, actually none of them are true. Advaita Vedanta, which is very simple about it, Advaita Vedanta actually is teaching us only Brahman is real. There's only one non-dual Brahman. It's because we think we are trapped in this world of whether real or dream or whatever, and we need a way out of this, and we are interested in the status of this world, and there's no way of teaching us without talking about this world, and therefore the teachers give us multiple approaches, none of which are ultimately true. What is ultimately true? Advaita Vedanta makes no secret about it. Advaita Vedanta says Brahman alone is real. The world is an appearance and you are Brahman. That is the final position of Advaita Vedanta. Even more precisely, Brahman alone is real. One non-dual existence, consciousness, bliss. As far as you can put it in language, that is the ultimate reality. Advaita Vedanta is quite clear, and you are that. But these three are approaches. Why three approaches? What are they? And how do they work? How are they different? That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about one particular approach today, which is the position being taken by this book, which is the second one, the Drishti Shrishti Vada, the treating the world as an appearance, as a dream. So let's start with the first one, Shrishti Drishti Vada, and then we'll proceed. The first one says that it's a common sense approach to non-duality. Non-duality itself is difficult, so don't make it more difficult than it needs to be. So let's just start where people are. That's good teaching. That's good pedagogy. The teacher should start where the student is. The way we feel about the world. Advaita Vedanta says let's start there. Let's take that seriously, and we will start and go to the Advaitic realization um, step by step. What do we feel about the world? That the world is there. It's real. It's here. And it predates us. The world existed and we were born into it. And then we saw it. This is called Srishti Drishti Vada. The world was created by God or by Big Bang or whatever. It's there. And it's been around for billions of years. And we were born recently. And having been born into this pre-existing world, we are now experiencing it. Srishti first, creation first, and Drishti next, experiencing it next. So we are experiencing it now. So that's like, that's the common sense position we all take. That's what we automatically believe in. We don't have to really think too deeply about this. And Vedanta says, let's start there. So most of the Vedantic teachings, if you see the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, they all take this position. Shankaracharya's commentaries almost always takes this position. So if you remember, say, our introductory text, if those who have studied Vedanta Sara, or generally any Vedantic text, what does it tell us about this world and about our real nature? What it tells us is this: there is Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss. With its power of Maya, that Brahman is called God, Ishvara, Saguna Brahman. And what does that God do? That God uses its power of Maya to project itself as this universe. The Taittiriya Upanishad, which we were just studying, listening to the beautiful chant, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman is limitless existence consciousness. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. But just a couple of lines after that, that same Upanishad says, Tasmad va etasmad atmana akasha sambhuta. From that Brahman, which is also the self, the Atma, what happened? The space was projected. Akasha sambhuta. Akashad vayu vayu ragni agni rapa adbhya prithvi. From space came the air or wind, and from air came fire, from fire came water, from water came this earth. And by the mixture of these 5 elements, this is ancient cosmology, it's common to many ancient cultures, including India. So by a combination of these 5 elements, this entire universe was created, including our bodies. It'll say the worlds were created and plants and vegetables grew there. Eating those plants and vegetables, we converted it into our body. From this body, the children are born. So our bodies are produced from the parents' bodies, which are produced from the food they eat, which is produced from the earth, which is produced from the 5 elements. And primordially, this comes from the Atman through, within brackets, its power of Maya. It projects this. And we are born into it. We sentient beings. It's the same Brahman, but filtered through ignorance, ajnana. It assumes, it appears as millions of billions of sentient beings who are unaware of their real nature. That's you and I and all of us. And then we go through lifetime after lifetime experiencing this world, a pre-existing world. And we go on our spiritual journey lifetime after lifetime until we spiritually evolve. And finally we embark consciously on our journey to enlightenment, and then we become enlightened and free. We realize we are Brahman, we always were. That's it. So this is the whole story. End of story? No, not end of story. So this is called Srishti Drishti Vada. Creation first, God created it. Somebody, it's there. And we come into it. And then we move ahead in our spiritual life. It's a sort of common sense approach. When it is said to us, this is for the lowest category of spiritual seeker. We think non-dual Vedanta is very difficult and only for a few. There also it's said, what you all learned till now is, how do we put it, Vedanta for dummies. And there is another way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is, no. It's not that there's a God who created this world. Rather, you are there as consciousness. For some inexplicable ignorance, you think of yourself as this body-mind in this world. you project it like a dream. This is the second approach. In the dream, when we enter into a dream, and we don't remember that we are dreaming, we feel it's a world. Probably there is a God who has created this world, space, fire, water, air, whatnot, and it's been going on for billions of years, and I am here in this world, and I am interacting with people, going through life, all sorts of weird and strange things happen. I don't even know it's a dream until I wake out of it. But when I wake up, then I realize that world I had entered in the dream, all the people there, the places there, the events which happened, even possibly a God I believed in that world, all of it was the projection of my dreaming mind. I was lying in bed and happily sleeping, and my mind dreamt. And the mind set up and projected me into the dream also. So the whole thing was projected, including the universe, including all the people, including all the events. So the seeing of the dream is the very existence of the dream. Look at the contrast. Earlier, the universe existed, then we come to see it. Srishti Drishti Vada. But now, in the second theory, which is our mainstay today, we are saying that you are seeing, therefore the universe exists. What happens in a dream? Everybody in that dream, every place in that dream, every event in that dream, it lasts as long as you are seeing. Even the whole dream universe, it lasts as long as you are dreaming. The moment you stop dreaming and go into deep sleep, or you wake up into the waking world, that whole dream with its contents, its dream universe, its people, its events, good and bad, all of them disappear. They not only disappear, you also awaken with the realization, oh, it was just a dream. What do you mean it was just a dream? It was not real. What you mean is it was not real. This waking world I'm sitting up in the bed, here, this is real. That was just a dream. And this is said to be the Srishti Drishti Vada. Drishti Srishti Vada, sorry. Your seeing itself is the creation. Dream, your seeing the dream is the creation of the dream world. Are we seeing the difference between these two? This is said to be the teaching which will be useful for, they say, Madhyama Adhikari, the middling seeker. A little better than the dummy. It's a little... what do you mean by the middling seeker, the dummy, or the Mandadhikari, and the best category? The difference is in the excellence, this is a technical way of putting it, excellence in sadhan chatushtay, fourfold qualification, this discernment between the eternal and the non-eternal, complete vairagya, dispassion for worldliness, for worldly goals, the sixfold disciplines, control of the mind, control of the senses, etc., and in mumukshutvam, intense desire for freedom. If you have it to some extent, not too good, it's good to start with the Srishti Drishti, and that's why most of the teaching, including masters of Vedanta like Shankara, who is the greatest figure in Advaita Vedanta, they generally, I'm saying that carefully, they generally give a Srishti Drishti teaching. That is, the world exists, common sense, the way you think about it, and now let's go towards the teaching of non-duality. Whereas some teachers, notably Shankara's teacher's teacher, Gaudapada, he gives this Drishti Srishti teaching, and also the Ajata teaching. We'll see that also is there. So those will be effective for people, as somebody said. You have to be a little desperate for that to be effective. So you have to picture what they say in the high Himalayas. Bahut phakkad mahatma the. So that word phakkad means, in the plains it means a homeless guy, a kind of penniless, jobless, vagabond, like that. But in the high Himalayas it means a monk who doesn't care for anything in this world. So I asked one of the monks, what's the difference? Is there a difference between Shankar? It seems to be. There's a difference. One is Drishti Srishti, one is Srishti Drishti. And he said, Gaudapad to Bhakkad Mahatma the. So Gaudapad, Shankara's guru's guru, was this kind of a teacher so his teaching you have to handle with care. It says, buyer beware. What? What's the thing? Buyer beware? There's a phrase. Caveat emptor. Caveat emptor, yes. So buyer beware. You have to be careful about... Then I asked him, if that is Gaudapada, then what was Shankaracharya? And the monk said, oh, Shankaracharya to Jagat Guru the. He is the world teacher. So world teacher has to carry everybody along. It's no good if you are a wonderful teacher, you have the highest teacher, but nobody understands what you are saying. And you're no good to anybody except the odd genius in the class. Everybody else doesn't know what's going on. There is another way of understanding these two positions, Srishti Drishti and Drishti Srishti, is Srishti Drishti is based on the waking state paradigm. Drishti Srishti is based on the dream state paradigm. The waking state paradigm is as we regard the world in the waking state. Here it exists. This is my room. It existed even when I was sleeping. It didn't disappear. Here's my job. It doesn't. Sometimes it may disappear. So the jobs are like that little bit of a drishti shrishti in this, especially in Manhattan. Yeah. If you take your eyes off it, it suddenly disappears. Has a tendency of disappearing. So it's all there. The family, the job, the house, and the car, and all of that. It exists even when I'm not experiencing it. So this is the waking state. I may forget it. I may go from this room to that room. That doesn't mean that room disappeared. You may go away from Vedanta Society. Doesn't mean Vedanta Society disappeared. Or it flashed into being the moment you came into it. It doesn't, not at all. Not like a dream. The dream is, when you stop seeing it, it's not there anymore. We are quite clear. You are having pizza in your dream and you say, it's time to get up. Let me put the pizza carefully in the refrigerator. I'll come tomorrow when I dream again. I'll come back and eat the pizza. No. The moment you wake up, that world and the refrigerator and the pizza and everything is gone from there. It doesn't exist. So the drishti drishti is based on the waking world, the way we commonly perceive our, or we understand our world. The drishti shrishti, the seeing as the creation of the world. Today's topic, the universe as seeing. That is based on the dream paradigm. If you want to explain Advaita Vedanta based on the waking paradigm, Srishti Drishti is your model. If you want to explain and teach Advaita based on the dream paradigm, then Drishti Srishti is your model. Where the world, which world? This waking world. This exists only when you experience it. When you're not experiencing it, it doesn't exist. It says, sounds crazy. Not as crazy as you would think. We'll see. And there is a third one. Let's just see the verse which we just read. It says, whatever you see here, it's not real. There's no real causality. It's an error and illusion appearing here in the waking state. So this is clearly Drishti Shrishti. It doesn't say, no, it exists. God created it. What do you mean it doesn't exist? No, it doesn't exist. It's a projection through Maya or Ajnana. There is a third. It gets crazier. There's a third approach, which is based, you might guess, on the deep sleep paradigm. This is called Ajatavada, the non-origination. The non-origination, the universe is unborn, uncreated. Was it created before we came into being, before we saw it? Srishti Drishti? No. Is it created when we see it or projected when we see it? No. Then what is it? It isn't. It's based on the deep sleep paradigm. How do you see the world in deep sleep? You don't. Your answer will be you don't. There's no world. Nobody who's seeking the world, nobody who's asking a question. And yet it's an experience. Deep sleep is also a kind of an experience. So it's an experience of the absence of the world appearance. In the waking state, we will say not world appearance, world reality. In the dream state, we will say world appearance. In deep sleep, we will say no world. Advaita based on deep sleep, that is Ajatavada, the non-origination theory. It's a little difficult to understand. How is it that if you're asleep, we understand. If you're under anesthesia, we understand. But when you are awake with eyes open, seeing this world as Rama is seeing and Vasistha is teaching him, how can you see this world and say it's not, only Brahman is? So here is a little anecdote, something that I saw myself. This happened about 20 years ago. This was in one of our ashrams in Calcutta, a place called Bodisha, on the outskirts of Calcutta. It's one of our ashrams, and it runs a senior center. There are elderly people there who stay there. We went. I was a newly minted monk at that time. Yeah, I'd just become, I'd got my orders as a sannyasi. So we went to see a couple of elderly gentlemen who were devotees who were staying there. So we would be a group of senior monks. Now these are monks who knew these gentlemen for decades, So 2 or 3 senior monks, some of you may recognize the names. Swami Suhitanandaji, who's now the vice president. Swami Shivamayanandaji was there, who was the vice president, who passed away just a couple of years ago. And Swami Ramanandaji, who is a very senior monk of our order, who is in Benares now. And then the central character in this anecdote, Swami Mumukshanandaji. Mumukshanandaji was a very senior monk of our order who passed away a few years ago. Very learned, very austere, very humble. He was the president of the Advaita ashram. He was the president of the Mother's House ashram. He was the principal at one time of our monastic training center and so on. Very quiet, thoughtful, learned, humble, a wonderful monk. Anybody who has seen him, they will know. So he was also going. And I and a friend of mine who were absolutely newly minted monks, we went along just to hear the conversation among these seniors, monks, and the other senior devotees they were going to meet. And we are looking forward to a wonderful conversation. That was, we just wanted to listen, So we landed up there. And so the story is this. Among the gentlemen we met was one elderly gentleman who was a noted philosopher. He was retired at that time, of course. His name was Devdas Bandyopadhyay, but we'll just call him the philosopher. We'll get confused with all these names. The philosopher. Now, we sat down for tea, the senior swamis, and we were in the background, I and my friend, the young monks, and the philosopher and some other gentlemen had come. So the swami in charge of that ashram said to the philosopher, "Well, sir, we have Swami Mumukshananda visiting here. You can ask all your questions and he'll definitely settle all your doubts." And that philosopher was one of the most unique people I have ever met. For the last 40 years, he had been thinking, does God exist or not? When I met him, he still hadn't come to a conclusion. Are you going to start your spiritual practices to become enlightened? And he said, first of all, I have to make up my mind whether God exists or not. So he had many questions like a philosopher. No, but I think he was a deeply spiritual man. So he said to Swami Mumukshanji, explain to me Ajatavada. The exact question was, what's the practice of Ajatavada, the non-origination theory? So that means basically, what's it? How is it possible? You see the world and you say it doesn't exist. You can say it's real, you can say it's a dream, but you have to say something about it. How can you just dismiss it like that? That doesn't sound at all rational, unless you are sleeping. So, our Mukshanji told us an anecdote. He said, I still remember this. And there was a funny pause also in between. One of the senior monks, who is a very dynamic Swami, who's not interested in all this abstruse philosophy. So when he heard this, what is Ajatavada and now we're going to discuss that, he said, I'm going to go sit in the boat. Now this is a reference to the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, where 2 friends came to Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna was talking about God. And the 2 friends sat there listening to him. One of them loved what he was saying. The other was bored. So the friend said to his friend, whispered, shall we go now? And the friend said, no, let me listen a little more. And this other friend said, okay, I'll go sit in the boat. So this Swami, he said, I'll go sit in the boat. There was no boat, but anyway. He knew a lot of non-dual talk is coming. So Swami Mokshanji said, just think of a boy who lives with his father in some, deep in the forest, and his father tells, he has never seen anything of civilization, So his father says, it's time you got to know more about the world.